Today's San Francisco 49ers report is absolutely loaded, and you don't want to miss what we have in store. On today's show, John Johnson, really solid safety for the Cleveland Browns, released. We know that San Francisco has a need at that safety spot. Could they look to sign him in free agency? More Tom Brady buzz coming from Mike Silver. It's possible the Niners could reach out. Two backup quarterbacks on the market in Marcus Mariota and Carson Wentz. We'll touch on that. And Daron Payne, I'm very, very sad, has been franchise tagged by the Washington Commanders. The 49ers will not be able to sign him. We begin with John Johnson. This news coming out early this morning on a Tuesday from Mary Kay Cabot, the go-to Browns reporter, that John Johnson III, who used to play for the Los Angeles Rams, if that name does sound familiar, last couple of years with the Cleveland Browns, has been released, and immediately he becomes one of the more interesting safety targets on the free agency market, of course, if the Cleveland Browns don't end up trying to trade him prior to that new league year beginning on March 15th. And for San Francisco, they might have a need at that safety position. Jimmy Ward is going to be a free agent. Deshaun Gibson, who really was a revelation all throughout 22, is going to think about maybe retiring. If he doesn't hang it up, he could come back on the cheap. He said that playing alongside Talanoa Hufanga has certainly rejuvenated him to a certain degree. And going back to the free agency period a couple of years ago, John Johnson was really sought after in that free agency class. And even going into 2022, he was sought after as a potential trade candidate. As for what he did this past season with Cleveland, a defense that was really up and down, 101 tackles, which is solid, but oftentimes if a safety is having that many tackles, that means that the front seven doesn't play all that well. 4 tackles for loss, 1 interception, and 2 forced fumbles. He signed a massive deal with the Browns heading into 2021 in that free agency period, and probably did not live up to the expectations of that contract because he was coming off some really marvelous seasons with the Los Angeles Rams. You look at the numbers in 2021 as well as in 2022, they really were solid, but by no means did he solidify himself as the best safety in the NFL like a lot of people had anticipated. So John Johnson released by the Cleveland Browns prior to that new league year starting. They could look to potentially trade him away to get some value back, but at this point, really not a lot of leverage for Cleveland. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because when players become available, we're going to talk about them. When the Niners make a signing, when they make a draft pick in April's NFL draft, we have you covered here on the show. Less than 1,500 people away, or my math is bad actually. We're closing in on 80,000 subscribers, so please make sure you subscribe. We are less than 150 people away from 79,000 subscribers. I was able to pick up the slack there. All right, Johnson's PFF grades. Here's how we looked in 2022. They weren't all that great. And Pro Football Focus. Sometimes it's way too nerdy and analytical for me, but you have to give them credit because they do watch literally every single snap of literally every single game. And here are the grades that they came up with for John Johnson. Overall grade, sub 63. Run defense grade, 56.5. Pass rush, 62. Coverage, 66.6. He had 17 missed tackles, so 101 on the year, but still, that's a lot of missed tackles for a safety there. And a passer rating when targeted of 77.7. He was expensive, and he did have a bad year. That's why the Browns have released him. They don't envision a scenario in which they want to continue forward with him on that current contract. But the Niners really don't use draft capital on safeties. It's been a long time since they drafted a safety. I think it was Adrian Kober back in the day, and that was several years ago. The Niners at that safety position, though, do covet veterans. And because John Johnson is coming off a bad year, maybe he's an option and a target for San Francisco. And just like the Niners did with Deshaun Gibson, could he be maximized in this defense playing aside from and to the side of Talanoa Hufanga with a really good linebacking core and a really good pass rush, and with Steve Wilks, who, you know, Jay Glazer had told me back during the Super Bowl week, he's probably going to be the best coaching hiring of any team in the National Football League. So could Steve Wilks, who, by the way, has a defensive backs background, elevate the play of John Johnson? Something to certainly keep an eye out for in free agency for San Francisco. So, Faithful, what do you think? We want to hear from you down in the comment section. Should the Niners sign him? S for sign, P for pass. Let us know down below. So we talked about John Johnson here. Still a lot left to get to on today's show. Tom Brady to the Niners possible. Marcus Mariota or Carson Wentz as a backup potentially, and Daron Payne off the market. First, though, want to tell you about Fume. This is a product and a brand new sponsor here at Chat Sports and on the 49ers Report that we're excited to tell you about. Now, a lot of you probably have questions as to what Fume is. It is not a vape, but we all have bad habits, and we certainly know how hard they can be to kick some of those bad habits. Our sponsor, Fume, is on a mission to accelerate humanity's breakup from the bad habits that consume far too many of us. Fume is a natural diffusive device that uses plant and behavioral science to help you trade out your negative habits for a positive one. I didn't expect much out of Fume when I got it, but the minty sensation is really powerful, and it really hits the back of the throat. And they have a couple of really good flavors here, like white cranberry, maple pepper, as well as crisp mint. Fume is not a vape. It's a non-electric device designed to transform your negative habits. The easiest way to stop a bad habit is to switch to a positive one, and Fume is designed perfectly to do just that. Head to tryfume.com/chatsports and use code CHATSPORTS to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com/chatsports. Use the code CHATSPORTS to save an additional 10% off of your order. We're going to put that link in the comment section as well as in the description of this video. Tom Brady rumors to the Niners continuing to swirl around the Bay Area, and once again it comes from Mike Silver, who has ties to this organization, who's a longtime Bay Area native, who went to Cal, and has always been all over things happening in that part of the country. Mike Silver saying on the Colin Cowherd podcast that it makes too much sense for the Niners to bring Tom Brady out of retirement. Here's the direct quote from the NFL insider that is Silver. "It just makes too much sense now, especially with Purdy, the surgery being pushed back, which A, is kind of a sign, like this whole thing he's going to be back at 6 months is not written in stone. B, it does push the timeline already very, very close to the start of the season. Best case scenario, I think they call Tom Brady again. And if not, then you think about Aaron Rodgers. But I think you're looking more at bringing in a Jacoby Brissett or an Andy Dalton or a Matt Ryan or someone as a hedge with Lance as you try to get him to a point where he can be your guy." My take with the 49ers quarterback situation. You look at this 49ers team, back-to-back NFC championship games, 3 NFC title games over the last 4 years with the Super Bowl appearance sprinkled in 2019. When you have a team that consists to the likes of Trent Williams, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, and a whole host of other really good players with Kyle Shanahan as your head coach and Steve Wilks as your defensive coordinator, you must take advantage of this Super Bowl window. The time to win is right now. I'm done with the 49ers having all of these quarterback controversies and having question marks at that position. If Trey Lance is the guy, move forward with him. If you have any doubts in Trey Lance, make the call to Tom Brady. Call up the Green Bay Packers because Green Bay seems unsure as to whether or not Aaron Rodgers wants to come back to Green Bay for another season. They seem to have confidence in Jordan Love being their starter, so make a call to him. Stop messing around at this quarterback spot. You have to get it right because before you know it, this Super Bowl window is going to be in the rear view, and before you know it, it's going to be too late to be on that quest for 6. If you think that bringing in Tom Brady can elevate this team, get them past that hump of making it to the NFC Championship game, but not breaking through to the Super Bowl, call up Tom Brady, try to convince him to come back to NorCal where he grew up, loving this football team, idolizing Joe Montana, and try to make that run at yet another Super Bowl for TB12. So do you want the Niners to bring him in? TB for yes. Those are his initials. No TB for no. Let us know once more. All right, some more breaking news earlier this morning on the NFL and quarterback front for that matter. Atlanta Falcons cutting quarterback Marcus Mariota, freeing up $12 million in cap space. How fitting that he probably had his most efficient and one of his best games of his NFL career against the Niners earlier this year in 2022. Finished the year with the Atlanta Falcons with 13 games played, completed 61% of his passes, more than 2,200 yards, only 15 touchdowns to 9 picks, 438 rushing yards, though, to 4 rushing touchdowns. I think that if Trey Lance was the bona fide starter for this football team, then Marcus Mariota would make a lot of sense. You go from one mobile quarterback who has good athleticism to another. That way, you don't really have to completely change the system and change the scheme like the Niners had struggled with when they went from Trey Lance to Jimmy Garoppolo, then to Brock Purdy. But we're not sure if Lance is going to be the guy, so I think instead San Francisco goes with one of those aforementioned veteran pocket passers that we talked about a little bit earlier. My go-to guy would be Jacoby Brissett. As for Carson Wentz, he, too, released by the Washington Commanders. That move came on Monday. He was awful in 2022. Pro Football Focus grade of 60.6. That was 33 of 39 qualifying quarterbacks left on his contract. 2 years, $53.4 million. Cap space saved for Washington, 26 plus. So they got rid and got out of some of that money remaining on his deal. They had to eat a lot of money in 2022, but it became clear that Carson Wentz clearly was not the guy. And for Kyle Shanahan, here's my message to Kyle Shanahan when it pertains to Carson Wentz and whether or not this organization wants to bring him in as a backup quarterback, because he has great size, he has a strong arm, he played well in 2017 before he shredded his knee and was going to be the MVP for the Philadelphia Eagles during that Super Bowl season. And time again, the Indianapolis Colts, the Washington Commanders, before he went to those two teams. With the Philadelphia Eagles, coaches look at the size, they look at the arm strength, and they think they're going to be the team that their coaching staff is going to be able to bring the best out of Wentz and maximize him as a player. Message to Kyle Shanahan, no. It's a simple no. Do not do it. Carson Wentz is washed both physically, and I think that he's a little bit mentally scattered right now. He lost his confidence after that knee injury with Philadelphia. He has never been the same player since 2017. We're coming up on that being 6 years ago since he played his best football. He ain't good. Don't bring him in as a backup quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. Who is better, though? Who would you rather have? Slim pickings here. Mariota, Carson Wentz, sound off. Could be tricky for a lot of you. Let's round out with this. Daron Payne, franchise tag by the Washington Commanders. This is a player who I wanted the Niners to target, but they cannot now because he's currently under contract for 2023 with Washington. The franchise tag cost that the Commanders will pay him, and they're also paying Jonathan Allen big money at that other defensive tackle spot, nearly $19 million, 18.9 to be specific. And I thought that with the Niners needing a player on the interior of this defensive line after getting bullied by the Dallas Cowboys and Philadelphia Eagles, that Daron Payne would have been the go-to guy and that marquee free agent to really bolster this defensive front for the 49ers. He was going to cost a lot of money if he did hit the open free agency market. He does not, because Washington keeps him under contract for another year as they try to work out a long-term contract extension, as that is usually the play. Franchise tag him, work on a long-term deal, or in the case of a running back, you pay him big-time money, you use him, wear him into the ground, and then you just let him hit the free agency market. Unfortunately for those RBs, they can't make big-time money, but for Payne, really, really good player, coming off a career year, career high in sacks with 11.5, 20 quarterback hits, 18 tackles for loss, and 5 pass breakups. Unfortunate that he's going to be rocking that ugly Commanders red and not the Niners scarlet red. So type F if you wanted Payne in the Bay. I wanted him. So, boom. There's my F. We appreciate all of you for watching. John Lynch set to talk with the media later today from the NFL Combine. Whatever takeaways come out of that, expect another video. And this is a reminder. Turn on your notifications. Therefore, whenever something big happens with this football team and we cover it, you will be notified. It's the perfect time of the year to do just that.